In a world that was always rushing forward, there was a sound most people never stopped to hear. A man played his violin, not for applause, not for money, but because music lived in his heart. Time moved on. The world kept going, somewhere beyond this quiet place, and still he played, holding on to the hope that one day someone would listen. On a quiet bench in the park, a father sat beside his little girl. The world felt slow there, safe. Then a sound drifted through the air. Her eyes widened, tiny, curious, as if her heart had heard something beautiful before her mind could understand it. She stood a little away from the bench. Still, her father watched quietly. Between them, there was a quiet understanding that she was safe. And somewhere beyond that moment, the music waited. With tiny steps, she moved along the path, following a sound she couldn't yet name. Behind her, her father watched quietly, not stopping her, not calling her back. Some journeys begin this way, small, unsure, and guided only by the heart. The sound grew clearer with every step. She didn't know where it came from. She only knew she had to follow it, as if something gentle was calling her forward. He played on, unnoticed by the world rushing past. Each note carried a lifetime of patience and a hope he had never learned to let go. Then she saw him. The hands, the music, the feeling she had been walking toward. Her smile formed quietly, like recognition. Two worlds met without words, a man who had waited, a child who had listened. In that simple moment, the music finally found its listener. He saw a tiny one with eyes full of curiosity and wonder. For a moment, he felt truly seen, and he smiled. The little one looked up at him, as if the music had led her exactly where she belonged. She stopped just close enough to feel the music. Tiny fingers reaching, unsure, but brave. And as the melody continued, she touched the violin, not to interrupt it, but to understand it. The man kept playing, smiling softly, as if the music had finally found the hands it was meant for. He did not stop playing. Instead, he guided her. His hand rested over hers as she held the bow, showing her how the music moves. One bow, two hearts, his hands leading, her wonder following, and the melody no longer his alone. Her joy spilled out in tiny claps. He kept playing and smiled. Her joy was small, but it reached far. Her father arrived quietly, watching from just behind. He didn't stop her, and the music kept playing, safe and unbroken. For the first time, her happy sounds made a few people slow down. And as her joy blended with the music, others quietly gathered. Tiny steps turned into gentle movement. Her happiness moved freely through the air. Without meaning to, it reached beyond the music. And little by little, more people began to gather, drawn by a moment they couldn't quite explain. She didn't dance for anyone. She simply followed the joy she felt. The music rose with the violinist, and this time it didn't go unnoticed. Some stopped and clapped, drawn by the joy in the air. Some lifted their phones to capture the moment. The little one dancing in the grass, and the violinist still playing, filling the park with gentle music. He moved closer, not to lead, but to follow her joy. The music stepped off the path and onto the grass, wrapping around her tiny movements. She danced without knowing why, and he played, knowing exactly. The father didn't step forward. He didn't call out. He simply watched, pride settling quietly in his heart. The violinist let the music rise, fast, bright, and joyful. Eyes closed, a smile on his face, he played from a full heart. In that moment, he wasn't waiting anymore. He was simply being heard. The music swelled, bright and fearless. Hands began to clap. Smiles spread. Around them, people gathered, drawn by joy they couldn't ignore. In the middle of it all, the violinist played on, and beside him, a little girl stood shining, as if the music had finally found its home. The music faded, but the moment didn't. Tiny arms wrapped around him, holding on without fear. He looked down, surprised, and in that quiet touch, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He wasn't just heard anymore. He was held. He set the music aside and lifted her gently into his arms. In that quiet pause, the melody lived on, not in the strings, but in the love they shared. For the first time, the music gave something back, and it stayed in his eyes. She reached for his face, tiny fingers exploring, curious and fearless. He smiled, because some touches speak louder than music. Hands reached out, not for the music, but for the man who played it. At last, he was seen. A gentle pat, 2 quiet smiles. She smiled back, not knowing why. The little one stood between them, tiny and bright. Her father watched quietly, proud and calm. The violinist opened his heart, feeling how she had lifted his spirits, how she had come like a little miracle, filling the quiet with joy. She picked a single pink flower that had fallen in the grass and offered it to him. He reached out his hands, gently accepting it, their eyes meeting in a quiet, tender moment. Hand in hand, she walked with her father along the path. Then, just for a moment, she turned slightly. Waving toward the world she had just discovered, a little smile lighting her face, a quiet farewell, full of wonder and joy. He waved back gently, a soft smile through happy tears, the small pink flower held close to his heart. A quiet farewell, tender and warm, as the park held the memory of a day made bright. The next day, the park was the same. People walked past again, but the violinist's heart was different, because once his music had been heard, and that was enough to keep him playing. One heart played, one heart listened, and the world felt a little lighter. Even the quietest notes can reach the deepest hearts.